Anna had heard the stories of the ancient woods near her grandmother's house. These tales were passed down through generations, whispered in hushed tones around campfires and during family gatherings. They spoke of a forest that was as old as time itself, a place where the trees seemed to hold secrets in their gnarled branches, and the wind carried the voices of those long gone. Locals spoke of strange disappearances, eerie noises at night, and legends of beasts that roamed the forest after dark. The stories varied, but they all shared a common thread. The forest was not a place to be trifled with. Some said it was cursed, others believed it was haunted by spirits of the past. The most chilling tales were of those who entered the forest and never returned. Their fates a mystery that only the trees knew. But Anna never believed in such things. She was a rational person, grounded in reality. To her, the forest was just a forest, a beautiful expanse of nature where she could escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life. She loved the way the sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the forest floor. The sounds of birds chirping and leaves rustling in the breeze were like a soothing symphony to her ears. She loved walking through the woods, especially in the evening when the sun painted the trees in shades of gold. The golden hour, as photographers called it, was her favorite time of day. The light was soft and warm, and everything seemed to glow with an ethereal beauty. It was during these walks that she felt most at peace, her worries melting away with each step she took. One afternoon she decided to explore a part of the forest she hadn't visited before. She had always been curious about the deeper parts of the woods, the areas that were less travelled and more wild. With a sense of adventure bubbling inside her, she set off on a path that led deeper into the heart of the forest. The trees in this section were older, their trunks thick and gnarled. They stood like ancient sentinels, their branches reaching out like twisted arms. The air was cooler here, and the light dimmer, filtered through the dense canopy above. It was a different world, one that felt untouched by time. The scent of moss and damp earth filled the air, and a soft wind rustled the leaves. It was a heady, earthy smell, one that spoke of life and decay, of the endless cycle of nature. The ground was soft underfoot, covered in a thick layer of fallen leaves and moss. It was like walking on a carpet of nature, each step muffled and quiet. At first everything seemed peaceful, but as she ventured deeper, the atmosphere changed. The air grew colder and the light dimmer. The trees seemed to close in around her, their branches forming a dense, impenetrable wall. The sounds of the forest grew quieter, the chirping of birds and rustling of leaves fading away until there was only silence. The sunlight faded faster than it should have, and soon Anna found herself walking in near darkness. It was as if the forest itself was swallowing the light, drawing her deeper into its shadowy embrace. She glanced at her watch, surprised to see that only a short time had passed. It felt like hours, the oppressive darkness stretching time into an endless night. The forest was unnaturally silent, and the smell of wet decay hung heavy in the air. It was a cloying, suffocating smell, one that made her stomach churn. The silence was oppressive, pressing down on her like a physical weight. It was as if the forest was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. She tried to turn back, but the path seemed to twist and shift behind her. The way she had come was no longer there, replaced by a tangle of roots and undergrowth. Panic began to set in, her heart pounding in her chest. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. She had always prided herself on her sense of direction, but now she felt hopelessly lost. The trees grew closer together, their branches like skeletal hands reaching for her. They seemed to move of their own accord, closing in around her, trapping her in their wooden embrace. She could feel their rough bark against her skin, their branches scratching at her like claws. It was as if the forest itself was alive, a malevolent entity that wanted to keep her there forever. A sound echoed through the trees, a low, haunting melody, almost like a lullaby, but distorted and wrong. It was a chilling, otherworldly sound, one that sent shivers down her spine. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, surrounding her, filling her mind with its eerie tune. It was a song of despair, a dirge for the lost souls of the forest. It filled her with a sense of dread, and Anna began to run, her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to get away from that sound. Her feet pounded against the forest floor, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The trees seemed to blur around her, their branches reaching out to grab her, to pull her back into the darkness. The melody followed her, growing louder, closer. It was relentless, a constant presence that she couldn't escape. It filled her mind, drowning out her thoughts, her fears. It was as if the forest itself was singing to her, a lullaby of death and despair. The air grew colder, and a heavy fog rolled in, swirling around her feet. It was a thick, impenetrable fog, one that seemed to cling to her, to wrap around her like a shroud. She could barely see a few feet in front of her, the world reduced to a shadowy, ghostly landscape. The cold seeped into her bones, chilling her to the core. Anna stumbled, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps as the sound of something large moving through the trees reached her ears. It was a heavy, lumbering sound, like something massive was crashing through the undergrowth. She could hear the snap of branches, the rustle of leaves, the growl of something that was not of this world. It was followed by a deep, rumbling growl. It was a sound that seemed to vibrate through the very ground, a primal, terrifying noise that spoke of ancient, predatory instincts. It was a sound that made her blood run cold, her heart skip a beat. She knew without a doubt that whatever was making that sound was hunting her. She ran faster, her legs burning with the effort, but no matter how far she went, the melody never faded. It was always there, just behind her, a constant reminder of the danger she was in. Her lungs burned, her muscles ached, but she couldn't stop. She had to keep running, had to keep moving, or she would be lost forever. The trees seemed to close in around her, and the ground beneath her feet felt soft, like it was pulling her down. It was as if the forest itself was trying to trap her, to hold her in its dark embrace. She could feel the ground giving way beneath her, her feet sinking into the soft, wet earth. It was like quicksand, pulling her down, dragging her into the depths of the forest. Finally, she burst through the trees and into a clearing, gasping for breath. The sudden openness was a shock, the bright light blinding her after the darkness of the forest. She stumbled to a stop, her chest heaving, her heart pounding in her ears. She was free, but the fear still clung to her, a cold, clammy presence that she couldn't shake. The forest behind her was still, silent. It was as if the trees had returned to their normal state, the darkness and danger gone. But she knew better. She knew that the forest was still there, still watching, still waiting. It was a living, breathing entity, one that would never let her forget what she had experienced. But the melody lingered in her mind, haunting her dreams for years to come. It was a constant presence, a reminder of the night she had spent in the forest. It was a song of despair, a lullaby of death, and it would never let her go. She could hear it in the quiet moments, in the stillness of the night, a haunting echo of the forest's dark embrace. Have you ever found yourself hopelessly lost in the woods? It's a feeling of utter helplessness, of being at the mercy of something much larger and more powerful than yourself. The forest is a place of beauty, but it is also a place of danger, a place where the line between reality and nightmare can blur. Beware. Stay vigilant, because there are terrifying creatures in the woods that few have ever seen and lived to talk about. They are the stuff of legends, of nightmares, and they are very real. The forest is their home, their hunting ground, and they will not hesitate to claim those who wander too far into their domain. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe and follow us for more. We have many more tales of terror and suspense, stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat and make you question what is real and what is not. Join us on TikTok and YouTube for more bone-chilling chronicles. If you dare,